I rise today to honor the extraordinary life and legacy of my dear friend, Mr. James E. Neenan, who passed away on January 30th at the age of 96. Jim was a first-generation Irish-American and a man of great moral character. His experiences as a young man helped forge the values that would guide the rest of his days: hard work, humility, humor, faith, and an unwavering devotion to family. When his country called, Jim answered, serving in the United States Army during the Korean War. And like so many veterans of his generation, Jim returned home not seeking recognition, but simply the opportunity to build a life rooted in purpose and community. And that is exactly what he did, leaving an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all he encountered, reflecting the very best of the city of good neighbors, Buffalo, New York. At St. Joseph's Collegiate Institute, my alma mater, thousands of athletes, including myself, knew Jim as Coach Neenan. Although small in stature, he was a giant on the football field, teaching proper technique to young men, many of whom went on to successful collegiate careers, and a number who went on to play in the NFL. He also coached tennis. But Coach Neenan taught far more than just the fundamentals on the courts or on the field. He taught discipline, teamwork, and respect. And above all, he instilled in countless young men that character mattered more than the scoreboard. Generations of Marauders carried those lessons with them long after the final whistle or graduation day. We remember a coach who listened and challenged us to be the best versions of ourselves. But for all he gave to his students and athletes, Jim's proudest role was being a husband, father, and grandfather. He shared 66 years of marriage with his beloved wife, Anita, a partnership built on love, loyalty, and mutual respect. Together, they raised 3 children, Jim, Mark, and Margaret, and took great joy in their grandson, Michael. Jim was the husband who never missed a chance for a small act of affection, the father who never missed a game or a milestone, and the grandfather who always had time for a round of golf or a Fighting Irish game on a Saturday afternoon. Those who knew Jim also knew his remarkable energy and discipline. Even well into his later years, he remained committed to physical fitness, convinced that staying active was essential to living well. It was typical of Coach Neenan, always focused on improvement and always leading by example. Those qualities carried over into his faith. After retiring, he made a habit of walking to church every day, a simple but powerful reflection of the humility and gratitude that defined his life and his devotion to the Lord. On a personal note, I'll never forget the sight of Coach Neenan regularly walking hand in hand through the neighborhood with his beautiful and loving wife, Anita. There are some people who pass through our lives that truly embody our nation's highest virtues. Jim Neenan was one of those people. A veteran, a neighbor, educator, coach, a devoted husband, loving father and grandfather, and a mentor whose influence echoes through generations of Marauders and families across Western New York. On behalf of a grateful community and nation, I extend my deepest condolences to the Neenan family. And may we all strive to live with the same humility, generosity, and resolve that defined Coach Neenan. May James E. Neenan rest in peace. Go St. Joe's. I yield back.